Howdy! Today we're looking at Nostalgia Ain't What It Used to Be by Jading Tsunami. It's a 13-level Boom-compatible WAD released in 2020. Now, according to the author, PR Boom Plus with software rendering and free look is the preferred way to play, but not required. Having gone through it a few times now, I agree, except I'd swap PR Boom with GZ Doom. That's mainly because the Chicken Man's port comes with neat sound effects that you're not going to get in Boom, and sometimes those effects will actually point you in the direction of a secret. Hear a buzzing sound coming from a wall or a panel? Maybe you should interact with it. Neat idea. Also, for whatever reason, Map 2's MIDI only plays in GZ Doom for me. Not sure what that's about. The only downside is the skybox on Map 8, which is kind of fucked. But it's also kind of fucked in PR Boom, just in a different way. Not a big deal though. Software rendering is definitely preferred. There are some lighting effects that depend on it, including at least one secret. Unfortunately, I'm stuck using the Betty White of PCs, so I have to record my gameplay in OpenGL to keep a decent frame rate. As far as free look is concerned, I personally never use it unless the WAD calls for it, and this one does. Like I said, not required, but it makes things easier. And well, it is basically required if you want all the kills. Just make sure you turn auto-aim off. According to Jading Tsunami, the WAD consists of quote-unquote restored versions of old 90s maps they had made, which were found on a stash of floppies. The idea of someone actually having a box of floppies laying around with maps they'd created over 20 years ago on them, yeah, it sounds a little too good to be true. That being said, I can see it. There are certain ideas and areas here that kind of harken back to that era of Doom mapping. Not that I'm an expert, most of my experience with 90s WADs comes off a fucking shovelware disc after all. You don't judge hamburgers based off the shit you get from McDonald's. And you don't judge sex based off the shit you get from the hooker behind McDonald's. So I really shouldn't be judging 90s mapping based off the shit on a Maximum Doom CD. Point is, don't ask me to carbon date this stuff. I'm just gonna take the author's word for it. Now on to map 1. Elegiac Dream. This is one of 3 maps that don't contain any gameplay, just here to set the mood and tell a story. You're in a spaceship, and that crusty old ball hanging before you is a dead planet, presumably Earth in the distant future. Or well, considering recent events, maybe it's next week, who fucking knows. You scan the sumbitch and find 3 objects of yore: a floppy disk, a cassette tape, and a CD. You'll see them pop up throughout the WAD. They replaced the skull keys, and for the most part, they're used to access secrets. This is pretty cool. I especially like that the floppy disk takes a few seconds to open the door. Although it sounds like a printer, but hey, whatever. Once you nab the CD, pop it in the PC to go to the next stage. I'm not sure what exactly is going on here. Is Doom Guy playing Doom? Like, are the next several maps a game within the game? And perhaps, but this meta shit makes my brain hurt. So we'll come back to it later. Look, if you want the intellectual Oxbridge experience, there are other channels out there for that. Over here, I'm surprised I can even count to 32. Next. Map 2. I See Dead Demons. We start the WAD proper with a rundown tech base. Bad stuff first, this area. You grab a light amp visor, come in here, and hit the switch. This'll reveal a horde of specters. Then you sit in a corner and chainsaw everything for a couple of minutes. Kinda lame, and that's assuming you even grab the damn chainsaw. If not, tough shit, because the platform is inaccessible from down here. This means you'll be using the shotgun, which means it'll take longer, which poses a pretty big problem. Because once that visor cuts out, the place goes from Terrence Howard to Don Cheadle real fucking fast. Good luck. That aside, everything else is pretty fun. Hardest part of the whole ordeal is taking the elevator down to this ambush, but clear out some imps and you'll be fine. If you found one of the 8 secrets, you'll also have a rocket launcher to help you out. And speaking of secrets, the ones here are pretty good and relatively straightforward. Enjoy it while it lasts. One thing I've noticed about some of these hidden areas is that you'll be expected to do some backtracking. Also, the goods are usually spaced evenly throughout a map. It's not uncommon to get something tasty right before the exit. Because of this, I like playing continuously, but pistol starting is also perfectly fine and feasible. That, in part, has to do with the pistol itself. The much maligned pea shooter has gotten 2 upgrades. First, it fires a lot faster. Second, it retains 100% accuracy at all times. Combine this with free look and you got a decent sniper on hand. I still don't use it that often, but hey, at least it ain't the stock pistol. Every time I'm holding that piece of crap, I just want to kill myself with it. Unfortunately, it can't kill anything. That aside, there are some other even juicier changes. Max armor is now 250, normal max health is 125, and if you suck on the right balls, that can also reach 250. Finally, everybody's favorite D-Hacked edition. Lost soul health is cut in half. Overall, the map plays well. It's not that long, but there's still a wide variety of monster and encounter types. It also looks good. Obviously, map 1 was pretty striking, but the author has imagination and an eye for detail that goes beyond just cool-looking textures. Although there's plenty of those to go around too. For example, a soul sphere hangs over a pool of light. When you pick it up, the light disappears, implying that the aforementioned blueberry was the source. That's clever. Next. Map 3, Especially Heinous. It's here that I really start to admire Jading Tsunami's creativity. That 90s experimental spirit begins peeking through, like morning wood through the hole in my SpongeBob jammies. Granted, the stuff here isn't quite as hard, but it does have more potential. Take the beginning. There's a smorgasbord of bad guys with their backs turned, including 2 masterminds. Very useful for infighting, but you can also get the 2 big brain bitches to infight each other if you're paying attention. And in fact, you're encouraged to do so. See, there's actually one last D-Hacked shenanigan to contend with. The Arachnomoms now have 2,000 more hit points, and their pain chance has been whittled down by just over half, on par with the Cyber Demon. Seems like a real ball-busting move, but the point, I think, is to make you prioritize infighting over direct engagement. It's a little wasted since there are only 2 pairs of these fine ladies in the whole WAD, and that last pair will probably infight regardless. But hey, at least there's more thought going into it than your standard add 1,000,000 health points to something and call it a final boss bullshit that a lot of games are guilty of. Some other ideas are less useful, like this factory area, I guess, where you hit a switch that activates some kind of crusher machine. Or the armor sitting on a lift, which takes you down, down, down to the drainage tunnel, and a few imps trapped therein. Or how about a secret where you have to hit buttons to change the color of the room, which lights up certain numbers on a bizarre painting. You can then use those numbers to access another secret. Unfortunately, there's also stuff that doesn't work too well. You can worm your way through the vent to grab a cassette tape, but the vent is broken. How do you get up the other side? Hit a switch that raises some rocks. It's kind of unintuitive. Or the fact that you can release some cacos and pain elementals that tend to teleport into another secret area and get stuck. Or this room full of demons that only opens up near the end, but you have no reason to come back here. So you'll probably be scratching your head when you reach the exit and find that you don't have all the kills. Or how about this room? You got Mancubi stuck in a cage at the far side, some demons ready to ambush you, and an Archvile and some imps standing in a pool of Thanos cum. Luckily, he's a glass half empty kind of guy, so the Archie is stuck down there. There are also 3 switches that all do the same thing. Temporarily lower this shield in front of the Mancubi. You can see how this might make for a cool encounter, where you have to deal with enemies while frantically hitting buttons to keep Mancubi's fireballs from clogging the room. In practice, it falls flat. You can just take them down piecemeal, and pelting the Archvile from up here is both lame and annoying. However, the worst has to be this area. There's a winding path of blocks that'll rise underneath you as you walk along them. The problem is that I don't know where the fucking path is. If there's some clue, I'm not seeing it. I was just taking one leap of faith after another, but the floor down there hurts, so I'm stuck doing it this way. Also, when you fall down, the center pushes you out into one of these slime trenches, and you'll trigger a line death in the process. There are 4 different line deaths, one for each quadrant, and each one reveals a pair of enemies. If you want all the kills, you gotta go down there and take damage at least 4 times. So that's dumb, but hey, the room looks nice. You'll never hear me complaining about the aesthetics or the atmosphere. And despite my nitpicking, the map is fun to play. There's a couple spots where you can eat shit real fast if you're not prepared, and that start can go wrong in a myriad of ways. But for the most part, it's not that bad. Next. Map 4, A Noble Spirit. For some reason, the medieval Dead-style opening and the MIDI are giving me Eternal Doom vibes. Fortunately, you don't need to bust out the electron microscope just to progress. In fact, it's a pretty simple affair. Dead simple if this area is anything to go by. You got 4 titty towers, each one chock full of enemies with a mancubus on the nipple. Yeah, demons stain the mountaintops. There's also a cyber demon protecting the crossroads, but he bobs up and down like a $2 whore on a guy with $2.50. If you time it right, you can run for one of the doors when he's too low to hit you, or just run circles till an infight breaks out. So you got 3 doors to explore. First room pits you against imps, barons, and revenants, with a couple more of the bony bastards shooting down at you. The visual effect is neat. It's a lot like that secret from map 3 with the buttons. Again, software lighting is required to make the most of it. Otherwise, it'll just look like you're having a slap fight and a glass of Kool-Aid. Also, you won't be able to make out the symbols on the wall. Not sure if those mean anything, but behind door number 3 are a few secrets, including this one. Here you gotta lower pedestals in the correct order to access a BFG. Now don't worry, I ain't spoiling it, but the only way I figured this shit out was trial and error. I wonder if those symbols are supposed to be a clue. This final area's got a lot of optional content, including a bizarre room with nothing but an immortal zombie man who can't leave. The Archvile pulling those strings will eventually be set loose back in the starting area, except there really ain't shit out here, save a few imps, and you can snipe him from the tower if you're a scaredy cat. You can also use them to reach one of the secrets via Archvile jump, bypassing the need to collect the cassette tape. Overall, it's a good map. At the end, you'll need to go back and motorboat that titty room to death, which isn't the breast experience, but it won't milk your ammo dry, so just get in there and put the squeeze on them. Next. Map 5, The First Rule. Fuck you, I'm talking about it. This one can be a pain if you don't know how to play it, and even when you do, it's a bit of a slog. Lots of shit that just exists to slow you down, like the glut of turret enemies at the beginning. Save those for the end when you got the firepower to deal with them. The next room has a series of platforms that you gotta lower by touching some torches, and this is followed up with a timed torch puzzle thing, and then another torch timer with some deep water that slows you down. Interesting, but annoying. After that, you have a labyrinth. What you need to do is hop on top to lower a whole bunch of goodies down to the floor, including a plasma rifle, super shoddy, supercharge, and mega armor, all of which are greatly appreciated. You will have to fight for them though. The area is littered with a million fuzzballs. Looks like my fucking shower drain down there. Keep in mind, you'll only have a shotgun and a rocket launcher at this point, unless you found the hidden Berserk pack. I'm of 2 minds when it comes to the secret placement. A couple of them aren't bad, though I was overthinking it at first. However, I'm really not a fan of shooting random walls, especially when that wall is behind an enemy that you're likely to use rockets or plasma on, neither of which activates the trigger. I'm also not too hot on this goofy shit. 3 enemies, 3 platforms, 3 teleporters. You need to get up on those platforms to lower some bars, and the first 2 guys can be telefragged without issue. That cyber demon, on the other hand, can't. He'll become alerted and probably walk out the way. I've played a few maps that do shit like this and it pisses me off. Just a roll of the dice to see which one of you is going to look like my toilet after eating a ghost pepper. The upside is that you don't have to telefrag him. You can jump over from the next platform, then leave his ass hanging, which brings me to another point. Jading Tsunami doesn't seem to give much of a shit about the completionist mindset. You can get 100% kills, but you'll have to run through the stage again to mop up stray demons. Luckily, it does loop. You'll also be required to go back at least once after nabbing the blue key, near the end, which opens a secret, near the beginning, which in turn teleports you back to the blue key room, this time with some extra company. Oh yeah, that's a fossil by the way. You don't see a lot of Paleolithic Doom cute. On that note, I like the oppressive Hell Cavern vibe. Unfortunately, I don't like playing it quite as much. Next. Map 6, To Infinity. I can't think of a good Buzz Lightyear joke that doesn't involve a big fat Woody, so let's just get to the point. This isn't my favorite map. It's not bad, it's not infuriating or anything like that, but there's a lot of little niggles that keep bringing the party down. I'll start with the most pervasive. Haphazard placement of items, weapons, and ammo. I noticed this on map 5, where he gives you plenty of stuff, but it's scattered all willy-nilly. Not a big deal, just triggers my tism, especially when simply picking all this crap up becomes tedious. The bigger issue is stuff like this. So you have an optional building, and inside is a locked blue door, and inside that is a berserk pack, backpack, and plasma rifle. Nice little haul, except before you even get the blue key, you can get a pretty obvious secret berserk pack. The blue key room has a backpack that's impossible to miss, and isn't very useful anyway, and the plasma rifle is basically worthless. By the time you get it, the map is almost over. What's the point in having this hefty pipe if I got nothing to stick it in? You also get a rocket launcher just before the final fight, but this one's fun to use. It's a horde of zombie men and 3 arch vials that can't really do anything because they'll be stun locked by the pile of corpses. The difficulty is pretty low overall, but there are some decent ambushes. The start is hectic. I'd suggest booking it for the super shoddy and leaving this congregation for later. That double barrel comes with a Revenant ambush, revealing the yellow key sets a variety of monsters on you, and the blue key pops a Revenant Arachnotron closet, which is neat. Actually getting the blue key isn't though. Just press the switches in the right order to operate some conveyor belts. If you screw up, you gotta wait for it to reset. Except the first one doesn't reset. Not sure if that's broken or if the author was just being kind. Another annoyance. This sewer area with a drop down to a bunch of specters and a couple of pain elementals. You're gonna have to lure those meatballs to you, which is boring, and then either tag the fuzzies from up top or take the plunge. And your chances. I really hate it when mappers force you to drop down into a swarm of pinkies. Even attempting it can get your ass bit off. Oh, and those 2 berserk packs I mentioned earlier? Yeah, you don't get either one until after this part. I never used them as a result. Final note, and this applies to most of the WoD. Aesthetically speaking, the map is disjointed as all hell. But damn, it still looks good. You start in a town square with a fountain and 3 buildings. Then a gazebo that fell out of Eviternity, followed by some sewers that flow next to a control room of some kind. And when you go up here, you pass through a weirdly demonic-looking hallway. To end the stage, you jump into outer space. Yeah. Oh, and you start in a cube with 4 striking desk things. When you open the door to leave, light from the teleporter room spills out into the cube, and when the door shuts, the light gradually fades away. That's a pretty amazing level of detail. I love it. Next. Map 7, Job 314. Quote, "The last generation. An unbroken line of fathers and mothers stretching back to the beginning of time, ending with us. Imagine a chess master playing 1,000 games a day for 1,000 years, writes one doomed soldier in a diary. This is what we have unleashed on ourselves. This is the fearsome opponent we have forged through our own ignorance. I pray for mercy, knowing there is none." You set the diary back down on the body. There seem to be more outposts ahead. Maybe one will provide some clue as to how these evil forces might be stopped. There is still hope. So about that story. According to the text file, you're trying to unravel the secrets of the Knowers. They're basically the Illuminati, and just like the real Illuminati, they were responsible for the destruction of this planet. The map name is a reference to Job chapter 3, verse 14, where the titular punching bag wonders what it'd be like if he'd never been born. Or maybe it's a reference to Job chapter 31, verse 4. Quote, "Is it not ruin for the wicked, disaster for those who do wrong? Does he not see my ways and count my every step?" I think he does. In the last map, you may have noticed the all-seeing eye of the Knowers. It'll pop up again. Turns out, they know. What a twist! They're on to you in your mission to, do whatever it is you're doing, so you gotta hurry and defeat the forces of evil. Unfortunately, map 7 might slow you down a bit. Imagine Mount Erebus after a pie-eating contest. Okay, we're talking nice and wide. It's a large toxic pool dotted with a few structures. It's not as bad as it sounds, but figuring this shit out for the first time is painful. Here's how it works. You got a few pit stop islands, a couple more substantial buildings, and then you got the main castle. It kinda sucks. I mean, the floor is damaging, but you get plenty of rad suits. You need to kill all the Mankybite to access the castle teleporter, but they're all clustered around the start, and too slow to really spread out that much. Nah, the real irritants are the sniping imps and the godforsaken cacodemons and lost souls that go flying off into the wild blue fucking yonder. One of the buildings you start in, another one is in the corner, grants you a plasma rifle, and then there's this barren island on the other corner with an Invuln and a BFG. You need to step on this island to make a cyberdemon spawn in. I don't know why. Again, if you want all the kills and all the secrets, you're gonna have to go out of your way to get them, which I'm not fond of. More examples. The castle has 2 secrets that require you to jump off, wade through the poison, hit the teleporter again, then make your way back to where you were. Also, you can fuck yourself out of 2 more secrets if you don't know what you're doing. And one of them grants you a floppy disk that opens a final secret, all the way back in the starting building. Which means you gotta do the toxic 2-step one more time to get your hands on a megasphere, a plasma rifle, and a ton of cells. Okay, that's cool, but you should already have the plasma rifle. There's a megasphere in the castle itself that you won't even really need, and the whole thing comes so late that it doesn't matter, unless you left enemies wandering around outside. I know I said this before, but the WAD flows a lot better if you're playing continuously, at least in my opinion. All bitching aside, once you know what the fuck's going on, it's not bad. Especially the castle part. There's a few rooms and some outside battlements that look cool, although you can cheese damn near everything by door fighting. Still, it's fun. Just wish it had been scaled down a bit. Next. Map 8, Perfectly Cast. I hope you got your cardio in on that last stage, cause now you gotta make your way up a skyscraper, and the elevator is out of order. I like the premise, and 2 other things. First, the MIDI. Whole WAD has some pretty good music, ranging from grandiose classical to more standard doom fare like this one. The second is the visuals, again much in the same vein as what's come before. It's cool looking, but highly disjointed. This, wooden office accented with bright green electronic panels is the best example. I also like the skybox in this courtyard that gets farther away every time you go up. It's a neat touch. So the idea is that you got 5 floors, each one with a room or 2 to clear out. Unfortunately, the difficulty is pretty damn low. The main problem is that the author is using boom teleporters to simulate room over room. You know, so you can climb the stairs. I'm going to assume that enemies don't work well with the portals because the entrance to each room has a monster blocking line def. In other words, you can just shoot them all from the doorway. There are a few exceptions. This room, where you enter and a mega armor on the conveyor belt starts moving until it's eventually off limits. So if you want it, you gotta go in there and get it. The yellow key requires you to suffer an ambush full of zombies and a couple of mancubi. Finally, you got the top floor, and a fight with a cyberdemon, 2 archviles, and some revenants. However, even this isn't really that bad. You get way too much ammo and a supercharge, then a megasphere just before exiting via the helipad. Still, it's a few minutes of fun. Next. Map 9, Inconclusive. Another gimmicky, straightforward affair. This one puts you in a Dawn of the Dead scenario. The MIDI, the empty mall, the night sky, it really nails the creepy vibe. You can wander around and nab supplies. Don't forget to clean out the restrooms and admire the toilets. When you're ready, grab the cassette tape, stick it in, and 2 waltzes will commence. You got a few archviles and a few hundred gunners. You've heard of Hit Scanner Hell? Welcome to Hit Scanner Heaven. The rockets have never been juicier. Of course, you will eventually run dry on everything except the shotgun and chain gun. You start this dance at the top of the stairs, so your natural inclination might be to hole up in the store and whittle the tide of twats down. On the other hand, 4 shops will have opened up on the ground floor with ammo, health, and some of the best hangars Doom has seen in over 20 years. It really is enjoyable in the dumbest way, and the place looks great, but there's not a whole lot else to say about it. Next. Map 10, In Case I Don't See Ya. It was a dark and stormy night, but just in case the Truman Show quote didn't tip you off, all is not as it seems. Press the button behind the TV to lower the walls and reveal a lengthy subterranean complex. Now this is a fleshed out map. First off though, if you're not using free look, I wouldn't bother with 100% kills. There's no easy way to tag these first few enemies. They're either too high or too far away. I have to say, even compared to the other cool looking levels we've seen, this one really takes the cake. You got neon liquids, sweeping staircases, and weird bits of architecture. On the gameplay front, the fights are still broken up into discrete chunks, but I like them better than before. Favorites include this one, where you're walking a tightrope between a Kako closet and a Baron guarding the red key, with a shitload of pinkies ready to feast if you fall off the wrong way. There's also a fight near the blue key, with some boners and more flying enemies. Speaking of which, actually grabbing the blue key slings an arch vial in your face, with absolutely zero cover. So put that secret plasma rifle to good use. That and the beginning fight in the same arena are probably the two hardest parts. But you're inundated with health, ammo, and 5 secrets, 2 of which contain megaspheres. They're all very useful and well placed. No off-color walls here, just good old-fashioned exploration. There's one final arch vial ambush that's about as tame as it gets, then you hit the blue key switch and leave. A penultimate level befitting the WAD. Enjoy it, because we're about to step in a moderately sized pile of bullshit. Next. Map 11. Behold, the Ravages of Age. We got ourselves a triple feature boss fight. 2 girls, 1 very large cup. Except the cup is more likely to eat shit against these beefed up bitches. As a result, 1 spider will usually remain, which poses a problem, cause there's barely any cover at all. The Pinky Spectre Horde will help chew up missiles coming at you from the wings, and you got these 2 things that you can squeeze behind in a pinch. But that's about it, unless you're fond of damaging floors. Keep in mind that the Master has more hit points than usual, so blitzing her with a BFG is even less viable. Also, the map is broken. If you get too close to the boss platform, you'll fall through the fucking floor. Best bet is to hang back and hose her down with plasma. Speaking of broken shit, the exit from this arena is supposed to kind of whisk you away, which is neat, but if you go too fast, you can skip over it and get stuck. Also, it's possible for revenants and imps to get stuck in their teleport closets. That being said, it's more fun if you eschew completionism in favor of speed. My best time is about a minute flat. There are 3 keys perched atop 3 pillars, which you can't see unless you're right at the edge. It's a little annoying trying to gauge where you're supposed to run off, but you'll get the hang of it. After that, you come to this area. Grab the random supercharge in the corner for some reason, then press a button that blows up a brain in a jar. Next. Map 12, The Long Ride. Eureka! The discovery of the Knower's secret hive mind within the recorded history of this species ensures you have a chance of saving your people. There is still time. There is still hope. You return to your ship to depart and find this central intelligence and destroy it. The game is over at this point, we just got a couple of story levels. So what is the fucking story anyway? At the end of map 11, we destroyed Motherfucker Brain. If you look around, you'll see that the aforementioned think box is actually a lot bigger. In fact, it covers the whole damn room. So that's what it looks like when the amazing atheist fedora comes off. Don't get euphoric yet though. Back on the ship, you set off to, I guess, find the central intelligence that you just destroyed? And I guess we weren't just playing Doom on the computer? I have no fucking clue what's going on. When you try to leave, the ship has a catastrophic meltdown, and then the all-seeing eye of the Knowers, which is just out of poking distance. I guess they really were onto you the whole time. Map 13 is just an epilogue. Game over, man. Game over. That's it for Nostalgia Ain't What It Used to Be. Favorite level? Well, while I enjoyed maps 2, 3, and 4, gotta give it to map 10, in case I don't see you. It's got some fun fights and a decent playtime, but doesn't overstay its welcome. Least favorite is one that does kinda overstay its welcome. Map 7, Job 314. There ain't a bad stage in the WAD as far as I'm concerned, but this one really could've used another pass, in my not-so-humble opinion. Overall though, Jading Tsunami delivers an eclectic mix of maps full of gimmicks, experimentation, and visual panache. Difficulty is the only consistent part, staying low to medium throughout. I like playing it continuously, but either way, if you're looking for a short romp through some beautiful outposts, yeah, it's recommended. Till next time.